legal to do this. And then I want you to speak to the fact, because I know you've seen it. Fox News, is saying, oh, maybe lithium needs to be in the water. The Japanese government's saying it, another toxic heavy metal, because, that'll cut down on suicide. And, oh, we want to put statins in the water. Even kids need them, which they admit basically.
That's part of it that's been out now. And, of course, if we had applied any what we call criteria or standards, that basically would have to do with anything we put in the water, none of these things would survive because you'd ask for them to take the burden of accountability on it. So this is actually part of how we've been able to affect in an area that, let's say, has been fluoridated for 40 or 50 years and realize that place doesn't – the public policy has been supported by the courts. The courts have basically, even though I don't agree with it, they basically said that the public policy is a legitimate government interest to reduce harm to people. The difference being is that you now get down to what shows up in the truck. And exactly what you're talking about, the actual substance is typically hydrofluosilicic acid. And this hydrofluosilicic acid is not present in nature by itself. It's created by pouring sulfuric acid over the ore that in the phosphate mines. It creates a gas, and this gas, they spray water down on top of it and capture it, and they now have this slurry of chemicals. They have arsenic and lead and cadmium and mercury and to a certain extent radionuclides. They actually have a whole series of, not because they were added, but because they were part of the ore in the first place. Now, the amazing part is the reason why they had to actually pour the sulfuric acid over the ore and separate it out is because normal plants would not be able to use the phosphate as fertilizer if it had fluoride with it, because most plants will not take it up through the root system. And so because of that, they're actually taking this substance that plants won't take and now separating it and then shipping it out to everybody. And the amazing part is in 1988, the U.S. EPA gave up all oversight of direct water additives. Now, most people think EPAs would be controlling that. They gave it all up.
Yeah, let's be clear. The EPA last year, without law, started putting $1,000 to $5,000 fines per infraction. And after the third infraction, they could adjudicate $1 million fines. Look it up on hay dust, and began sending agents out without warrants with meters, just like when a cop pulled me over and did a meter on light on my window tint and said, oh, I guess it isn't too dark. You can go. They have meters with a little light they shoot from point to point. This is on record. I've seen it on the news. And boom, if there's hay dust in your barn, bam, OSHA fines. Oh, hay dust, grass dust.
Right.
Now, of course, there's dust in a barn. Believe me, I've loaded a lot of hay up into the loft. The point is, it's to shut down small business. Meanwhile, there's no regulation over water additives. And so it's the biggest joke. I want to explain this again. I've done reports. I've done videos. You can go to Infowars.com and just type in fluoride from China. We did whole reports on it. I was told about it by insiders and did a search, found articles on it. I was told by family, actually, in East Texas that runs a water department in a small town. And they, well, I'm not going to get them in trouble. Let's just say a lot of water departments go, the city may be paying for this. We're just going to get rid of it. The problem is if they put it in a field, it'll kill the whole field. They can't dump it in a creek. It'll kill everything. But I'm going to just shut up. I'm going to stop right there. The point is there's a bunch of water department people that are quietly just getting rid of the fluoride on the side because they know and have read it. And on there, most of it now is, a lot of it's from China, a lot of it's from Florida. But the stuff from China, you think they're just putting melamine in the milk. You think they're just putting lead in the toys. Folks, they're worse toxic waste, mercury, lead, arsenic, and radioactive isotopes. And see, I've been talking about this now for years, and people get their local news to cover it. You put a Geiger counter on the city pipes, it's radioactive, and they go, we don't know where it's coming from. Must be the lake. Terrorists must have put radiation in there. And I'm like, no, your city got caught. It's the additive. It's the residue. Radiation is not good for your teeth. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead. I'm ranting. It's just, this is so incredible. This is so off the charts. We've got to warn people.
Well, and in fact, what happens is, the promoters of fluoridation would say that it's all certified, but what they forget to mention to anybody is that it's never batch tested, meaning that they might have a certification even one time a year, and most of us aren't too happy about thinking what kind of certification took place over in China. But in any case, they're not certified for what shows up in the truck. They just basically say, yeah, we've been certified one time a year. So, you know, a large part of the way that we've been able to basically address this is to make certain we get down to exactly what you're talking about, and we're dealing specifically with the product. and making certain that someone becomes accountable for it. Well, guess what? Nobody wants to raise their hand. And I'd be happy if I know you have a short time today. If you want to give out my email or something like that or telephone number, I'm happy to take calls.
Absolutely. We're just going to get you on for one or two segments, but I wanted to have basically banner for the whole hour now if you've got time. Give me the best websites you think to look at, your email for folks that want to link up with you. I think you're one of the most articulate, focused, professional guys on this subject. But, I mean, if you were in Soviet Russia, where on record they put fluoride in the water, that was even in the Nuremberg trials where the Nazis learned about it to make people sedate. If you were there, if you worked in an orphanage and they told you to put poison in the kids' milk, how about you just dump the milk in the trash can and say you're poisoning the kids? If you don't have the courage to speak out, it's time for water department people. I know a lot of them are waking up and going to the city and saying, take it out. But the lobbyists come and give them a little bit of money because the city's paying millions on average for the poison. But, I mean, how about at least you just throw it in the landfill? How about, I mean, I'm telling folks that work at water districts, it's poison. You know it's poison. You know the insert on it says if you ate a gram of this, it would kill you. Then why are you putting it in the water, sending it to your family downstream and everybody else? It's time for people to not just sue. I think it's good to sue, good to be focused, good to be calm. But I think it's also good to run around like a chicken with your head cut off. That's very effective, Mr. Green, to wake people up out of their trance. All of us are attacking on different fronts in different ways because this is run around like a chicken with your head cut off issue. When they're putting lead, mercury, radon, uranium, plutonium, radioactive particles in there as well. And after a water district's been doing it for 10 years, local news checked into what I said and put Geiger counters on the water department pipes, and it's 50 times in one newscast over what it's supposed to be. The Geiger counter's pegging. But then the news isn't allowed to say it's the fluoride. They run around bumbling saying, we don't know why. I mean, do you see the level of the hoax I'm talking about here, sir?
Well, I certainly do, and in fact, that's one of the reasons why we have to pierce through it, because we have to recognize that the media plays a large role. They would rather describe the he said, she said. And one thing that you'll see, and you'll see this with other issues that I'm certain that you've covered because I've watched or listened to your programs before, that what will happen is that they, in a piece that supposedly is a report or that is news, they will state that, the fluoride is put in the water because it reduces tooth decay, and it's been proven to do that, but these people claim that it's harmful. I mean, that's not news. That's their opinion, going out there and selling this themselves.
Yes.
That's what we're all up against, basically. So I have a telephone number, 800-728-3833, that people are welcome to call me on, and I can help guide them through certain issues. I have an email that they can do where I can send them specific documents depending upon what state that they're in that may be helpful. And that's an easy one. It's just my name with reverse, but Green Jeff, GREENJEFF, at Cox, that's COX.net. And I would be happy to talk with people because there are ways for us to do it. You have to be a little bit more disciplined, but it really is something. If we don't stand up for this, I'm sorry. It's just like you said before, or Alex said before, you're looking at statin drugs or lithium or other things going to be placed in the water too.
And, of course, they always make jokes in national publications, Southern Poverty Law Center and others. Alex Jones thinks fluoride's bad, and he thinks they want to put drugs to control our minds. Ha, ha, ha. Meanwhile, AP, Fox, CNN, Japanese TV, they're going, oh, we should put lithium in. Oh, we should put statins in. Oh, we should certify embryos beforehand to make sure there's not aggressive genes in them. I mean, they're just total nanny state of total control coming down on us. Jeff, in closing, where is the fight going right now? What can we do around the country to fight back against states that are trying to pass laws now saying, before they just snuck it in, now they're like, it's the law, you will do this.
Well, here's the part to remember is by the time it gets to a city council meeting, and I'm sorry what this sounds like, but whether it's a city council meeting or it's a state legislature, by the time the decisions have already been made. They've already made those decisions that, these are dog and pony shows when you get there. So the opportunity is contact with people who are in the community that are like-minded. You get in contact with people like myself or other people that are involved, and you prepare for it, because the truth is you can block this, that you can stop them from putting it in the water.
I want to hear how you do that. Let's do one more segment. We'll be right back. Infowars.com.
A little over a year ago,
I need to get this guy on. Was it Don Henley? His songs are so good. I was rediscovering some of that music on this road trip, listening to it on the iPad. So politically aware from like the 80s with deep understanding. There's folks out there that know exactly what's going on. It's just they've got to speak out. They've got to be involved. By the way, I talked to Dave Mustaine this morning. He's been trying to get a hold of me for weeks, and I'm out of control. I don't even call Charlie Sheen back when he calls me and stuff. I just am so obsessed with news and information. But I really like Dave Mustaine. And he said he did not endorse Santorum. He was just offhandedly saying, I like this guy, I like that guy, I like Ron Paul, but then he says stuff that doesn't make sense. I like Santorum on the Christian issues. Side issue, Dave Mustaine said, well, I already put a press release out. You know, he would have basically said all this on my show first, but I never got the message. And he said, no, I did not endorse Santorum. But he's invited me over to the concert and stuff when he's in Austin next week and more. I'll just leave it at that. So look for some surprises. He was going to get out to town a few months ago, and then I had some stuff that came up, and so couldn't host him. But he is coming to town, coming to stay over at my house. That should be interesting. You can't make up that level of wildness. The combo of Alex Jones, Dave Mustaine. Not name dropping. It's just that is interesting. I haven't plugged books, videos, DVDs, nothing in over 2 hours. I'm losing money on this trip, by the way, because I'm giving half the profits to radio stations. I won't be able to do that next time. It's just I can't lose money and keep operating. But be sure and buy the books, the DVDs, the materials, the Prisonplanet.tv memberships if you believe in this info and this platform for activists and fighters that we, use it as a jump point for others to build them up and inform others. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to our guest, Jeff Green, really an articulate gentleman, really valiantly fighting the forced poisoning of the public, not even forced medicating. National Director of Citizens for Safe Drinking Water. We got a minute or two, 3 minutes left here. I wanted to let you take us out of this hour. Aaron Dykes is coming up with Cindy Sheehan, and I'll also be popping in. I've got to go get packed. We keep getting to our destinations at like midnight, so I've got to go get packed to get back on the bus just so I can get to where the next place we're going by like midnight so I can get home earlier tomorrow. And so I probably will call in on my own show once Cindy Sheehan comes on. So I got a few questions for her as well, but Aaron Dykes coming up. Just take us out. How can you block it before they put the poison in? Because now they're coming in trying to actually make it the law.
Well, and in fact, whether they've already put it in or they're going to put it in, we have to recognize, one, that this is not an educational game, and that's the hardest part for most of us. Almost every one of us started out thinking that if we could educate them, if they knew what we knew, they wouldn't be doing this. And then you find out that's not true at all. That this is a power game. It's about control. It's about power. And in fact, you have to understand what power you have to affect this. And as long as we're begging them or, somehow or other trying to cajole them into thinking that they're doing the right thing. Anytime you're in a water system where someone's decided they're going to put something in there and doesn't realize you can't control dosage unless you control how much water somebody drinks, you don't have somebody that is smart enough to be your representative. So the real question then is, do you throw them all out? Well, I mean, gosh, it's all happening all across the United States. Or do you find ways to be able to force them to engage? Right now, anybody who is basically what we call a legislative person, a person who's been elected, they have certain protections that says they get to rely on experts. And what we found is that there's a process of being able to really eliminate that reliance on those experts.
This is too important. Do it 2 or 3 minutes on this last segment on how we can reverse this for the info warriors out there to launch new offensive against these globalists. All right, we are back live. Aaron Dykes and Cindy Sheehan coming up. Some of the news at Infowars.com. Dem operative with CIA background calls for open primary shenanigans. Rights group petition FAA on use of drones in U.S. skies. Eugenicists, bioethicists argue killing newborn babies should be allowed. Obama